This is Film Focus with Emily Cook. For screenings, reviews, and all things film in the Isle of Man.
Hi, I'm Emily Cook. And welcome to my look at all things film on the Isle of Man this week. Welcome to the third episode of Film Focus, the February edition. This episode is all about the more alternative love stories, so come with us as we push aside the saccharine love hearts and explore the more unconventional romantic movies. In this episode, I'll be joined by my co-host Sarah, and we'll discuss new releases The Big Short, Spotlight, and the latest from Marvel, Deadpool. Our special guest joining us a little later on is OBE and BBC controller Tony Ageh, who was instrumental in the invention of the iPlayer. We'll let you know of any filmmaking opportunities and events on the horizon, and as if that wasn't enough, we're going to be revealing our top 5 alternative love story films to watch this February. Each episode, I'll be joined by our resident film fan Sarah, who watches at least 7 feature films a week. She'll be updating us on her 500 film challenge a little later on. Hello Sarah.
Hiya Emily, how are you getting on?
Great, thank you. How are you?
Good, yep, very well, thank you. Raring to go.
Lovely to have you back with us. So let's have a look at our featured films this week.
I know there's things you cannot tell me. But I also know there's a story here, and I think everybody will hear about it.
Spotlight tells the riveting true story of the Boston Globe's Spotlight investigation team who uncovered a scandal that would rock the city and shock the world.
The Boston priests molested kids in 6 different parishes over the last 30 years.
For years, whispers of the Boston Archdiocese's cover-up of sexual abuse within the Catholic Church were largely ignored by the media, the police and the legal system. Against all odds, a team of investigative journalists fight to expose the truth. Spotlight is directed by Academy Award nominee Tom McCarthy and stars Michael Keaton, Rachel McAdams and Mark Ruffalo. So what did you make of it, Sarah?
It's obviously a very difficult and emotive subject that they're covering. I really felt though that the way the filmmaker approached it was quite incredible. He did it as if he was a journalist himself, and I think you kind of feel almost as if you're part of the Spotlight team, following their journey, how the facts kind of link in together, and I just found it really fascinating.
I thought it was pretty complex actually, the way that they told the story and the different levels to it, how information was given out at certain times. As you say, it was as if we were on the Spotlight team. I thought it was fantastically gripping throughout. There wasn't a moment where I got bored at all.
No, I agree.
And I thought it was really interesting. Each character had a personal relationship with the story that was taking place. So it worked on so many different levels. I think it's a very passionate, complex and intriguing film. And I was really impressed by Mark Ruffalo and Rachel McAdams' characters the most. I enjoyed their portrayals and I thought the acting was incredible.
Yeah, I totally agree. I thought it was fantastically gripping, as you said. I'd definitely see it again.
Absolutely, I would too. Although it was a difficult story to tell, as you touched upon, it's important to make a film about this topic because for some people they just wouldn't engage with this kind of content, or if it was on the news they might switch off from it. But when it's put into a feature film, it makes it a lot more accessible for people to maybe speak out. There's that acceptance that it's okay to challenge these things. They've seen fictional characters challenge them, so potentially it could give some strength to individuals who have experienced some of the situations touched upon in this film. The Big Short, directed and co-written by Adam McKay, is a biographical comedy drama based on the true story of the US financial crisis of 2007 to 2008, which was triggered by the build-up of the housing market and the credit bubble. With an all-star cast including Christian Bale, Steve Carell, Ryan Gosling and Brad Pitt, the film is nominated for 5 Academy Awards. What did you make of the film?
I really like the fact that even though the film is obviously about a very serious crisis that touched the lives of absolutely millions of Americans, there is definitely some level of lightheartedness about it, and I think that's a fantastic balancing act to achieve.
Speaking of the levels of lightheartedness, I thought it was interesting to see Steve Carell in a serious role. He's worked with this director before, it's the same director for Anchorman, but there were 1 or 2 hilarious lines that he still managed to include.
I think the hilarity came from him just being so angry about everything.
Yes.
But you know, you kind of do understand it. Everything he's railing on is completely unfair and absolutely preposterous, actually.
And it's quite terrifying that this could happen again at any point. Even the people within the organisations didn't see it coming, and within the structures. I did find, as somebody who's completely outside of the financial arena, that a lot of the terms that were used were quite confusing, and Adam McKay, the director, chooses to use some celeb cameos to kind of combat this. I unfortunately found that a little bit patronising, even though, and I know it's a bit contradictory, I didn't understand what they were talking about. They put a celebrity in it to explain it in layman's terms, and then I find it patronising. So maybe I'm kind of being a bit harsh here. What's really interesting about it is it was a true story, and these kinds of devices that are utilised remind us that the film is actually very self-aware. There are moments where the fourth wall is broken and the characters speak directly to the audience, which reminds you that actually, although the film is enjoyable, this is a terrifying true story that could happen at any point.
The banks and defrauded the American people. Now we can kick them in the teeth.
Okay, here we go.
Based upon Marvel Comics' most unconventional anti-hero, Deadpool tells the origin story of former Special Forces operative turned mercenary played by Ryan Reynolds, who, after being subjected to a rogue experiment that leaves him with accelerated healing powers, adopts the alter ego Deadpool. Armed with his new abilities, Deadpool hunts down the man who nearly destroyed his life. So Sarah, is this a film that you're looking forward to?
Not really. I'm not that into Marvel or DC Comics films, to be honest. I think they've been done to death, in my opinion. This doesn't seem to have that much extra to offer for me as a viewer. It seems a bit like a filler to me, just like Ant-Man, kind of bridging the gap almost. I'll definitely go to see it though, just in case I'm wrong. I always like to give these films a chance just in case. You know, they've got huge budgets and sometimes they can pull something really interesting out of the bag.
I think this film is quite different than some of the other Marvels, and that's what I find particularly interesting about it. The hero is an unconventional anti-hero who is self-aware of his own existence. You can see this in the marketing of the film.
Hi, Deadpool here with an important public service announcement. This is your brain. Actually, it's a chimichanga, but I'm making a point because this is your brain on IMAX. Bigger is better, right?
Some of the posters show him reclined on a fur rug in front of a fire and marketing it as a romantic comedy, or the character posing for the camera, sticking his bottom out and making...
Oh, I've seen that one, looking a bit cheeky.
Yes, so he's aware, or of him reading Empire magazine with himself on the front cover.
Oh, okay.
So this is interesting, being aware of its own marketing, being aware of its impact it's having on the viewer. It makes the film more than just a film that the viewer watches. It's more of an experience that they engage with.
That's an incredibly clever marketing tactic, certainly.
So we'll just have to go and see it and see if the film lives up to the expectations.
You are haunting. You look like an avocado had sex with an older avocado.
Thank you.
Each episode we discuss a film genre, theme or topic, and with it being the month of love due to Valentine's Day, we thought we'd ignore the saccharine sweetness of the romantic comedy and instead address the more unconventional stories of the movie world. As viewers, we're so used to Hollywood telling us the same contrived and formulaic love stories. We're all too familiar with the scenario of girl meets boy, couple strive against adversity to be together, happy couple ride off into the sunset, the end. We'd like to elaborate on the lesser told films of love, from the cult love story to the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender love story. Here are our top 5 unconventional love stories.
Lost in Translation is a 2003 American comedy drama written and directed by Sofia Coppola. It was her second feature film after The Virgin Suicides. It stars Bill Murray as aging actor Bob Harris, who befriends college graduate Charlotte, played by Scarlett Johansson, in a Tokyo hotel. The film is about their relationship. Lost in Translation received critical acclaim and was nominated for 4 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, Best Actor for Bill Murray, and Best Director for Coppola. Coppola won for Best Original Screenplay. I really like the fact that this isn't a traditional love story. The 2 main characters are unhappy in their respective lives and there's arguably a really large age gap. but a bond still forms and they become quite close over the course of their time together in Japan. The ending's left really open, and I've often found myself considering what I think might have happened after the film draws to a close.
What was really interesting, would you say, about the film? Are there any interesting facts?
I thought it was amazing to find out that Scarlett Johansson was only 17 when she made the film.
I've chosen the 1996 movie Romeo and Juliet from director Baz Luhrmann.
My heart loved till now, for swear at sight, for I never saw true beauty till this night.
It's a modern retelling of Shakespeare's most famous romantic tragedy. Two star-crossed lovers, Romeo and Juliet, played by Leonardo DiCaprio and Claire Danes, fall in love and find themselves in an impossible, fateful situation. Baz Luhrmann sets the characters in a postmodernist city called Verona Beach, a play on Venice Beach, and the two opposing households, the Montagues and the Capulets, are in fact rival gangs with guns, knives and a huge amount of honour which needs defending.
I'm with you on this one, Emily, I have to say, but why did you select it specifically?
I find it's just so emotionally intense and beautiful and passionate, and it expertly translates Shakespeare's 400-year-old story into today's modern world. I feel the film is all the more intense for us knowing the ending from the start. The relationship depicted is beautifully acted by DiCaprio and Danes. It's so passionate, raw and innocent and visceral. The viewers can't help but be submersed in their impossible love and tragic fate. I find it hard to believe the film is now actually 20 years old.
Wow.
I know. I watched it recently and although there were some stylistic elements that felt a little dated, the story remains actually just as relevant as ever.
Well, Juliet, I will lie with you tonight.
My next film was Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind for 2004, directed by Michel Gondry. It's basically about an estranged couple who have erased each other from their memories, and it's written by Charlie Kaufman and stars Jim Carrey and Kate Winslet. It creatively uses elements of science fiction, psychological thriller and a non-linear narrative to explore the nature of memory and a rather unconventional romantic love. The film won the Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay, and Winslet received an Academy Award nomination for Best Actress.
So it's a perfect example of a cult love story, and why did you select it?
I just think it's incredibly original and touching. I've never seen a film like it before. I think we can all understand and empathise how it feels when we're hurt and we're really in pain, and actually we'd quite like to erase all memory of someone from our lives. But I just think the film is clever because it examines whether it's better to feel that pain and have the happy memories that come with it as well. I thought it was really beautiful.
Yeah, it's something that everybody can relate to. So what interesting fact did you find out about the film?
During the train scene, apparently Kate Winslet punches Jim Carrey for real, and his reaction is actually genuine surprise. I've heard that Jim Carrey's a bit of a joker on set, so it's quite nice to have that reversed a little bit.
Yes, brilliant.
I don't want this anymore, I want to call it off!
My next film that I've selected is Amélie, which is a French film from acclaimed director Jean-Pierre Jeunet, which tells the story of a young waitress in Paris called Amélie, played by Audrey Tautou, who, using her wild imagination, orchestrates, positively affects the lives of those around her, based on her brand of justice. Along the way, she falls in love with a mysterious stranger.
This one, just from the description, sounds like it's quite a conventional love story. So why did you pick this one, Emily?
I loved this film from the moment I saw it. It tells of several unconventional love stories in parallel: parental love, self-love and respect, the love and compassion one can show to a stranger, and of course a very beautifully unorthodox and pure romantic love. The film is fast-paced and sweeps you along an unpredictable journey. I'd go so far as saying that actually Amélie is one of my favourite films of all time, and I know you love the film as well.
I do.
And it's a perfect way as well to introduce people to foreign cinema. It's a very easy in if somebody out there hasn't actually watched it. And actually my interesting fact about it is that the character was specifically written for Emily Watson, and she wanted the part but had to decline because she didn't speak French and had already agreed to be in Gosford Park. I'm just very pleased they actually went with Audrey Tautou because she's incredible.
She is perfect, isn't she? No one else could have played Amélie.
No.
There's something you'd like to tell me.
And my last selection was The Danish Girl, directed by Tom Hooper. And it stars Eddie Redmayne as Lily Elba, one of the first known recipients of sex reassignment surgery. This remarkable love story is inspired by the lives of Danish painters Lily Elba and Gerda Wegener, and beautifully explores the couple's relationship as they navigate their groundbreaking journey as transgender pioneers.
So why did you select this?
I really, if people haven't picked this up already, I love watching love stories, especially if characters' circumstances are massively different to my own. And this story, it's not exactly true, but it definitely captures the love felt by Gerda for Lily beautifully. In actual fact, in real life, the women were more like sisters, and Gerda was in fact bisexual. But I think this is based on the fictional tale of them as opposed to their real lives, if that makes sense.
Fascinating. So we asked you on Facebook what your favourite unconventional love stories were. Toby Hawkins from Bexhill recommends 2 Days in Paris.
Robin Cole went for Brokeback Mountain, which I've not seen. This is one that I've not seen and I must put on my list.
It'll be on your list, we might talk about that a bit later. Fiona Haller and Sarah Hendy put forward Harold and Maude. Some great suggestions there to add to the list. Thank you so much for getting in touch. We always love to hear from you through our Facebook pages and blog comments. You'll find more on this topic, including trailers, posters and links to the film on our blog. Here at Film Focus, we love to speak with special individuals from the world of film and television, and this episode is no exception. This week, we're focusing on media and broadcast innovator Tony Ageh, OBE, who was instrumental in the creation of iPlayer and is on the BAFTA committee. I caught up with him the other day at the BBC to talk about his instrumental role in the inception of iPlayer, what he's been watching as a BAFTA panellist, Breaking Bad, how the evolution of new media is affecting our viewing patterns and consumption of film, and whether he feels there's still a place for the cinema experience. I'm joined here by Tony Ageh, OBE and controller of BBC Archive Development. So you've built a career on innovation and making things happen within the media and broadcasting industry, most notably so with your involvement in devising and developing market-leading on-demand service, BBC iPlayer. How did the idea come about for iPlayer? As nothing existed like this service previously, it seems rather innovative.
Yeah, I think, there's lots of creation myths about the iPlayer, but I think the simplest thing to say is it was inevitable, and that 2003 marked the earliest moment when it was almost technically possible. In 2003, Ben Lavender proved that it was within touching distance. I can remember one of the most important presentations that Ben gave. For the first time on his graph, he put on broadband, and he showed all these different speeds and the rate that content would travel over the network. He was able to anticipate that at this point, I think he said by 2005, there will be this percentage of people will have a connection that is fast enough to download a file that you could view as a program. iPlayer is known for its streaming, but in 2003 it was not in any way possible to stream a television program over the internet. And also in 2003 you were looking at very small, juddery, ugly images. When we showed it to the BBC executives, it was horrible to look at. You know, there were people at the BBC saying, no, don't do that. It ruins the art. So we had to demonstrate that we download it. We'd say, actually, we're not going to stream it because that would be ridiculous. But if we download the file, then it can be beautiful, it can be in high def, it can be full screen. And that's kind of where we got to. We could download a program in 5 or 6 hours, which you would only use as a last resort. You only spend 6 hours downloading a program. If you'd watched 23 episodes of the series 24 and had missed the last one, therefore, you know, whatever it takes, I'll download it. So between Ben thinking of the idea that we should be able to view television programs on the internet, he called it an internet PVR, and the launch of it in 2007, a couple of things happened, one of which is Moore's Law, which reduces the cost but increases the capacity of technology. And the second was, so there's been a sort of a myth that it took 5 years to develop the technology, and it didn't. Ben's first version would have worked at any point. It was that the BBC took 5 years to give itself approval to launch it. So if the BBC had been Sky and in 2002 had decided this was a great idea and launched it, we would have been 4 years ahead of the market. So your question, it was innovative and ahead of the market, was true. At the point when Ben and I were championing this idea, we were way ahead. But the BBC took so long to approve that the technology had therefore overtaken it, and you could now do things 4 years later that you couldn't have done at the point when we came up with it.
With on-demand services like iPlayer, we as an audience aren't now fixed to watching specific programmes at specific transmission times. How do you see the future of viewing films and television programmes evolve further over the coming years?
Well, I think that is the answer. We can reach that point of evolution. I think we can develop services that are more communal, more social. The liberation from the broadcast schedule is what the internet has given us. For the internet to make the claim, at least, that it was better than the previous medium, it must be able to do everything the other one can do. What it does that is better than broadcasting, it allows self-scheduling, it allows communal viewing. It frees you from fixed format size. Improvements will come from format rather than schedule. You can now watch a 4-hour episode of EastEnders, or you can watch a 40-second version. I think it's much more about the social context at this stage. It's about the kind of being in a two-way relationship with the narrator or the production itself, but more importantly probably with your friends.
Do you think we've lost something because television's now a much less of an event? That kind of doesn't happen as much now.
I think there's always a sort of, loss of innocence with anything. It's not just with broadcasting. The Queen's speech was something lovely that everybody rallied round on a Christmas day, and we all had turkey for 15 years, defined what we thought about 3 o'clock on Christmas Day. Any time something changes or improves, you'd lose the benefits that were built into the previous restrictions. Every medium is limited by the technology that produces it. You get used to the limitations and you decide that that's a feature, not a bug. The water cooler moment is mythical, I think, really. And we all still have communal experiences. Actually, quite a lot of the communal experiences happen in real time. The idea that the water cooler moment appears in a place rather than appears among a group of people is, I think, is the trade-off. I think it's better.
How do you think digital media will change the UK film business?
So I think my answer is an opportunity for creativity. If you were to remove sound and say we can't use sound anymore, I would reckon that would be an opportunity for creativity.
Yeah.
I think real creatives will work within any restriction. So I think the challenge for creatives is that actually these technologies are capable of doing too much, not too little. Almost anybody is now capable of being a storyteller, and they can use any medium. If there's something that's being challenged, I think it's print. Not TV and film. I think the opportunities to get really close and in a real dialogue with your audiences are exciting. I think you can have a very long-term relationship with somebody instead of sort of having to try and capture them for a couple of hours and then hope that you've said everything you can. I mean, Breaking Bad to me looks like a Hollywood movie, over 50 hours. I think like a 50-hour movie, that's really exciting.
Have you seen all of it?
I have, yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah. It is fantastic, isn't it?
It's wonderful.
Yeah. So I suppose if there's a real problem, it's how you fund it profitably. I think you can probably fund it to break even, but funding profitably is difficult. Because there's no law that the media has to be profitable. It just is. And it may well be that media stops being a profitable thing in the way that religion is no longer a profitable thing. It used to be, I'm sure, a time when you would go into religion thinking that's a good career.
Yeah,
but
not anymore.
You wouldn't do that now. No. So the media may actually become closer to something like that, where storytelling and narrative and shared culture over time and space becomes a very different kind of activity that you don't do for money, you just do. That might be the more interesting challenge, is removing the profit motive and just turning it into a narrative.
Do you feel that with all of this digital technology and the availability of films and television online, that there's still that place for the cinema experience?
Personally, I hope so. It's my favourite way of consuming media. I like to be in a space with other people, feeling their reactions. I think humans like to be together. I think we're communal. I think we like to feed off each other. We sometimes don't know whether we're feeling happy or sad unless we get a sense from others. I mean, I think empathy is the thing that bonds us together. So yes, I do think so, and I hope so.
Lovely. And finally, what was the last film that you watched, and why did you watch it?
The last film I watched was called Spotlight. It's about the Boston Globe's investigations into the child abuse in the Catholic Church. The real truth why I watched it was because I'm on the BAFTA judging panel, so
oh, very nice.
I was very keen to watch it. It's a great story about journalists who refuse to be beaten by a system that was designed to obfuscate rather than let in light.
And would you recommend it?
Absolutely, yeah.
Thanks so much for joining me, Tony. It's been fantastic speaking to you and a real eye-opener.
Thank you.
That's a really, really thought-provoking interview. I loved hearing what Tony had to say about the future of broadcast, and I particularly loved his point about the cinema's place in society, actually.
Absolutely. Obviously, we go about 3 times a week to the cinema,
yeah.
So clearly we agree with him that there is a place for cinema. If you caught our previous episodes, you'll know that Sarah has embarked on an exciting journey to watch over 500 films over the next year. That's on average 46 films a month, 9.6 films a week, and 1.36 films a day. So Sarah, can you give us a little update on your progress? What number are you up to, and what's your favourite film that you've watched so far?
I've posted 62 reviews on my YouTube channel so far. I've been lucky enough to watch some really brilliant films actually since our last chat. The ones that stand out for me are probably Room, Martyrs and Out of the Furnace.
I love Room. I mean, I know we spoke about it the other day, but it's some of the best child acting that I've ever seen. Absolutely brilliant film. I would advise anybody goes to see it. It tells a really unconventional story about a woman who's been kept in captivity for 7 years.
That little boy is incredible, and I really hope he's got a massively bright future.
It's incredibly impressive acting. If you'd like to follow Sarah's progress, go to YouTube and search for Sarah 500 Film Challenge. We'll also include a link on our blog page. I'm loving following your journey, and I'll have to check out your review of Room.
Thanks, Emily. I'm really enjoying the challenge, and I'll encourage everybody listening again to please comment on the reviews and do send me some suggestions for films that I can watch. But Brokeback Mountain, 100% going on the list.
Brilliant.
Before we draw things to a close, is there any filmmaking news you'd like to share from the Isle of Man?
Yes, there is actually. Pleased you asked. Last month, film production training scheme MannIN Shorts ran 3 workshops in sound design, production and 1 in acting and directing. They were well attended, and there are some superb photos up on their Facebook page, so please do search for MannIN Shorts. Filmmakers Bev Lawley, Sonia Quayle, John Crane and Edward Crumpton have just won Best Film in the extra long section at Dicemutina Film Festival in Italy for their Isle of Man made and MannIN Shorts supported film Muck. Congratulations to the whole team who worked on it. There was a huge crew behind them. It was one of the winners of the MannIN Shorts pitching scheme. So without that scheme, the film wouldn't have come into fruition at that point in time. So wonderful effort to everybody there. After a refurbishment, I'm pleased to announce that the Peel Centenary Centre is back open, and they look forward to returning with indie cinema films in Peel on the 9th of March, and they'll be screening the most recent Bond film Spectre, which we actually reviewed for December's edition, so if you'd like to check that out on our Vimeo page, please do. If you've enjoyed listening and would like to keep up to date with our daily posts, please find us on Facebook. Simply search for Film Focus. Thank you for joining us for our 3rd ever episode of Film Focus. It's been so much fun. Please check out the links in the audio and video descriptions below for more from us. You'll be able to find a blog post of this episode over on our site featuring related links, movie posters, trailers and a summary of our thoughts this week. There's also a space to leave your comments and have your say. We'd love to hear from you. We'll be back soon with more from both Sarah and myself. Do join us then.
Thanks for listening to Film Focus with Emily Cook. Happy movie going!